So guys, we got a really special vehicle today to look at, and it's this Subaru Sambar Volkswagen minibus, or no, it's definitely a Subaru. It's definitely a Subaru Sambar. It's definitely not a Volkswagen. Don't come after us, Volkswagen. I know you've been crushing these things at the ports being imported, but this is not a Volkswagen. It's definitely a Subaru. So let's get into it, guys. This is a customer's Subaru Sambar, recently imported. It's the first one I have had with the conversion, we'll say, on the front end. And it's also the first one I've had with an ECVT. I've not worked on any of the ECVTs in the past. All of them have been manual transmission. So what we're gonna do is a bumper-to-bumper inspection, see what all work this thing needs, and try to work up a quote for our customer. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So guys, what we've got here is a 1993 Subaru Sambar K-Van with a minibus conversion on it, as you can see from the different front end and the big round headlights. Now this is a super special, unique van compared to a regular Subaru Sambar van, which we've talked about and had on the channel in the past. And the uniqueness goes all the way through. So this is the key. And very unique, very different, as well as the little keychain there. So what we have again is a fiberglass shell on the front of this Subaru Sambar to give it a look of a certain German company's vehicle of the late 60s, 70s that was a van and very mini-like. So we're saying things very carefully here because that German company has been bad about taking these and stripping them from owners, so we're not going to poke the bear today. So we've got the fiberglass bumper at the bottom, we got the fiberglass nose, and we got the running board down here, and I believe the back bumper is different. Now, I'm not sure if this is blue or purple. You guys will have to tell me later because most of you know that I am colorblind, so I can't really tell. Now, the customization has gone all the way through the interior of this little Subaru with the different steering wheel and the paint on the dashboard to match the exterior of the vehicle. Factory seats, and again, it's an ECVT. We haven't worked on one of those yet. We've only worked on the manual transmissions. Looking in the back, this door handle is broken, I forgot, but pretty much the same as every other Sambar we've looked at on the channel. Does have some little aluminum wheels, and to the back here, we've got little bit of rust in several spots on this van. Must have spent some time near the coast or in the mountains, or you know, just somewhere where it was rusty or ability to get rusted. So we do have something here that has nothing to do with the front of the car, and I believe we've got a car cover here, Thor's hammer, and you know, these things just have tons and tons of headroom, tons of space for a vehicle of their size, and someone like me that's 6'4" sits in it very comfortably. Now the back bumper here and the engine cover is completely different. I'm not even sure how I can get in here to work on and look at the engine. I don't think this works as factory because there are screws here where this should be a release for the factory hood or engine cover to pop up and tilt back. So that's going to make this very interesting working on this car, and especially doing the inspection. I guess most of our inspecting, at least today, we'll have to go through the upper engine cover. So yeah, should have looked at that before I started filming the video today. So yeah, we do have some rust, and we got some cosmetic issues on the vehicle, and we got a pretty big pocket of it right there. But the owner does body work, and he's going to sort that out, thank goodness, because I couldn't paint a vehicle if my life depended on it. Now luckily we do have a paper parts manual, which is nice. I've never had one paper. I've always had PDFs for these, and this is a lot nicer upscale model than the last van we had, which was a base work model with a vinyl bench seat. So this one has little captain's chairs back here with armrest and cup holders and all that good stuff, but this isn't the top line model, which actually had the front seats could swivel around to the back, and there was rear air conditioning, which this one unfortunately does not have, although it is an air-conditioned version. We are showing right at 70,000 kilometers, which is kind of higher mileage, but this is a 1993, so someone did drive it. Now, I have noticed that it does have a little bit of a hard start issue. On cold start, which I already started it and moved it, so it fired right up on that firing. We don't have working air conditioning. If we turn on the AC, there's no activation of the AC compressor, no bogging of the engine to, indicate that the compressor has kicked in. So likely we have leaked out a charge. We will be looking at that and figuring out their air conditioning for them, as well as there are issues with this aftermarket shift lever over here. So we might be finding a factory shift handle for this automatic to alleviate those issues, because it kind of gets hung up between gears and doesn't want to shift really well. So flipping the passenger seat out of the way, looks like we got a fairly new battery in here, and looks like as far as suspension and stuff goes, it's fairly rust free, but let's get underneath and take a better look. So our tires are fairly good as far as the tread depth is concerned, but there is some dry rotting and some chunks missing here. I'm not sure if they ran something over or what. They are date stamped as 2017, so they do have a little bit of age on them, but otherwise they look pretty decent. Now our brakes sound horrible, but this thing has been sitting for some time. It sat here about 2 weeks at my place because, again, been running back and forth after Hurricane Helene and haven't had a chance to take a look at this customer's vehicle yet. But looking at the brake pads, there's a good amount of meat left on the pads on the front, so not really worried about that. With some regular driving, this corrosion and buildup on the rotor should eat itself away and slick back up, look a lot better. So as far as our front suspension and steering looks, everything looks pretty good. There is some surface rust on stuff, but, it is a 1993. We do have a little bit of dry rot in the boot for the outer tie rod and the ball joint, as well as the bushings are starting to look a little crusty and rusty, or crusty and cracky. But otherwise, everything looks good. Steering's tight, ball joints are tight, all of that good stuff. Just some surface rust under here. Did notice that we are missing our spare tire from the spare tire carrier back here. So not sure what's up with that. So guys, first look at the engine, and we have a very dirty, leaky carburetor here. That's probably got something to do with our poor starting. As you can see, there's quite a bit of gumminess on both sides of the carburetor, looking wet. We also got a lot of buildup down here on top of the engine block. Looks like maybe a rodent's nest or something in there. And unfortunately for the customer, this is an R12 system, so I can't do much for them as far as their air condition is concerned, other than a retrofit to 134. And looks like there is a newer air filter installed. Not too bad in there. Still don't know how in the world to get this off. I'm assuming I'm going to unscrew it and actually remove it to get into here. So we're not going to do that right now because we're running out of daylight. But I would assume I'm going to have a rocker cover leak. Very common on these EN07s. And looks like we need ignition tune-up with a cap, rotor, wires, plugs, all that good stuff, because they got some age on them. It's a mystery to us. And we have no service record, so might as well do it cheap, get it done, and know exactly where you stand. As well as I will probably be recommending a time belt service. Just, again, 75,000 kilometers. We don't know the history of the vehicle, and just to have it done for peace of mind. Also, no clue on that fuel filter down there, so it will be added to the recommendation list as well. So finally getting a look under here. Looks like this is just a fiberglass shell that has to be unbolted to get access to the engine. Looking at the wires, they do look like they might be newer, but we do have a little bit of seepage from that rocker cover, so I'm going to recommend a gasket. Looking underneath, we got the typical oil pan leak and rear main seal leak for an EN07. Those will be added to the list. Looks like we've got an axle seal leak over here. And I'm not sure, again, on these ECVTs, what they need as far as maintenance, but I see an oil pan and a drain plug, so I'm assuming that there is a service for the fluid in these ECVTs, as well as the differential gear oil here. Although I'm not seeing the typical plug like the manual transmission, so perhaps the ECVT shares fluid between the transmission and the final drive. Again, not sure, have to look it up in the manual. And it looks like we've got a busted mount up there for the transmission. Have to get in there and look at it better, but it looks like it's completely torn out. And other Other than that, you know, it's the typical stuff we see on these. Again, rear main seal leak, oil pan leak, all that good stuff. Let's go on the other side. So looking from this side, the oil pan might not be leaking. It might just be that drain plug leaking and slinging back. So we'll clean that up and monitor that, but we definitely seem to have a rear main oil seal leak. And looking over here, looks like maybe they've already gone into the time belt, but again, hard to know. Cheap insurance to go ahead and do it. We also have the typical torn engine mount here. As you can see, starting to separate, come apart. So definitely adding that. We'll pull the plugs out later and take a look at them once I get this rear cover off of here at a later date. Now, the customer did say they had an overheating issue, and I think we've got part of the issue right here. We need a cap for our coolant reservoir. It's a different system on the van compared to the truck, and I believe that that cap has to be in place to keep from losing coolant. I believe it's a cap with a hose that goes up to the coolant fill up above the tail light there. And looking at our axle seal over here, looks like there was some seepage, but it's not wet, so it looks like that one's all right. And looking at this transmission mount from this side, it definitely looks like it's torn and separated in there, so gonna advise transmission mount. Yeah, that's definitely not sketchy, turning the exhaust down that angle for this body kit. And looking at our rear tires, you can see more of that dry rot in the sidewall there. So matching set, all 2017 date stamp, but probably would advise a set of tires for too long. Again, not for the tread depth because they're nice. It's just that dry rot's a little sketchy. So guys, there you have it. This little van is far from perfect, but she's not a total loss either. She just needs some TLC, and we're gonna give it to her. So tune in for future videos on this little Sambar van and bringing it back up to tip-top shape. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.